What's going on, everybody, and welcome back to Bourbon of the Week. My name's Chris. I'm going to be your host for today, and thanks to Barrell Craft Spirits, we now have an opportunity to try this batch number 35 coming out of Barrell Bourbon. We've talked about everything that we know about Barrell Craft Spirits already, so for our Bourbon Bomb of the Week, we're going to compare this to batch 34 as well as batch 33, both of which were heavy hitters, and I love them both. Excited to get into this one today. Let's talk about it. It does say it is 6-year age stated on the bottle here, but it does have some older whiskey than that in here, and this is coming in at 117.5 proof. I'm very excited to try this. Again, I already said I loved batch 33 and batch 34. That's why I want to compare all three of them today, but everybody knows before we get started on all of that, time for the traditional sip. Cheers, y'all. They get better and better. Let's put those other bottles away for right now and focus on the batch number 35. The age statement on this bottle right here is 6 years, but if you know anything about age statements, that's the youngest whiskey that goes into this bottle. This actually has 6-year, 7-year, 8-year, as well as 13-year-old whiskey in it. Basically, they take a multi-mash bill of 6 and 7-year-old whiskey, blend that together, then they add in some 8-year-old whiskey to that, let that mingle in the barrels for a couple of months, and then they add in the 13-year-old whiskey. The 6 and 7-year-old whiskey in this is a high rye mash bill, and it's very high octane, high proof. The 8-year-old whiskey that they then mingle it with is a little bit lower proof as well, more of those fruity notes, and then obviously the age characteristics that you're going to get out of that 13-year-old whiskey are really going to shine on this glass as well. You know how we do it here, price, taste, drinkability. Let's start with drinkability. Now, if you know anything about Barrell Craft Spirits at this point, we know that they're not distilling their own product. In this, they have 6, 7, and 8-year-old whiskey coming out of Indiana. I'm going to assume that's MGP. It could be Starlight as well, but I like to assume MGP. We then have 7 and 13-year-old whiskey coming out of Tennessee, so Jack Daniels, or more likely George Dickel. And then we have 7-year-old whiskey also coming out of Kentucky. I don't have a clue who that is from. This does have a specific mash bill of 78% corn, 18% rye, and 4% malted barley. But let's dive into this when it comes to drinkability. One more sip. Something about what they do over there with the blending process at Barrell Craft Spirits, they're definitely not trying to hide the ethanol kick, right? That's what they're bringing out. That's why they put everything out at cask strength. But at the same time, they do so well at blending these that the flavors take over more than the ethanol. For me, I'm not going to say it drinks super under its proof, but I would probably blind this in that like 105 to 110 range, closer to that than 117, 120. And this is 117.5. So let's take one more sip, then we'll give it a score for drinkability. So we always go 8.0 if it drinks right at its proof. I'm obviously going to go a little bit above that 8.0 mark just because 110, 105 is definitely under 117. So let's give this like an 8.14 when it comes to drinkability on batch 35 from Barrell. And let's pour a little bit more up here as we get the taste on this. These bottles, I gotta tell you, I'm really excited to try these side by side because I am excited to see how they differ from each other. It seems like, and I haven't had batch 33 or 34 in quite some time right now, but I will say they do seem different, and I love that, right? If this was supposed to be a small batch product that was supposed to be consistent time and time again, then that's how they would release it. But releasing it in different batches means that it should be different, and they're aiming for a different flavor profile. This one right here, though, hits my palate, I think, better than the three of them. But let's take another sip and see what we're getting. Here's the thing, when I pick up a glass of bourbon for the first time, I normally gravitate right towards those sweet notes, the vanillas, the toffees, the butterscotch, the caramel. That's normally what I pick up first. On this glass right here though, I'm going straight to the spice and I don't mind it at all. Now normally at 18% rye, you would attribute that to a rye spice, but for me it's a little bit different. It's more of like a salsa. If you sit down at a Mexican restaurant and have a fresh salsa made right there for you at the table, that's what I'm getting. Those peppers, those spicy peppers, maybe a little bit of that spice when it comes to that rye and that black pepper all coming together on this. But the word I want to use on this glass is fresh. It just seems so fresh and alive. It's just so good when it comes to that spice, but then it tones it right back down. The second thing that I'm getting is some fruit notes on this. Let's see exactly what they are though. Again, it just reminds me of salsa, maybe like a mango habanero, something spicy like that. You get those peaches, you get a little bit of banana, like you're getting banana pepper on this as well. Everything about this glass screams like a salsa to me. I don't know why I got that, but that's exactly what I thought the first time I sipped it, and that's exactly what I got on this second glass right here. Very good. Something definitely different when it comes to the spiciness, not that traditional rye spice, but at the end of the day, I love this a lot. It reminds me almost like an A. Smith Bowman, how you get that spiciness, that 1792, how you get that spiciness, but it's like a hot sauce or a hot pepper or something a little bit different than the rye spice. This right here is very good. One more sip and we'll give it a score when it comes to taste. I didn't even get to mention the oak on this. The oak on the end of this glass is very good. It doesn't dominate or overwhelm the palate, but right after that spiciness, it definitely tones it back down with that sweetness and that 13-year-old oak on this. It's more of a sweet oak as well. Maybe a little bit of tannins, a little bit of dryness on the tongue, but nothing overwhelming. One more sip, I promise. This is just a tough one when it comes to taste. I will say this does seem a little bit more complex than the other barrel bourbons that I've had in the past, and I love that about this particular glass. I do think there's a lot of spiciness for this, so if you don't like spiciness, this might not be for you, but at the end of the day, I would still try it because it's definitely a different spiciness like I talked about than your traditional rye spice or something that just tastes like allspice or black pepper. I think this is a very different spice, so definitely try it out. I'm going to give this like an 8 point... I'm going to go 7 something, 8.74 when it comes to taste on this. And last but certainly not least, we're going to get a price on this bottle right here. And the price on this, if they keep it the same, is going to be that $79.99 price tag, which means about 80 bucks for this bottle of whiskey. I don't hate it at 80 bucks. If you like spicy in your whiskey, you're going to love this bottle right here. I do want to try all three of these next to each other to see which one I like the best, but this at 80 bucks is still not a bad ask, especially the way the bourbon market is moving. It seems like everybody's asking for 75, 80, maybe even $100 for a bottle of whiskey that you don't know anything about. They're giving us a lot of information about this bottle that other distilleries do not seem to do. So let's take one more sip. Let's finish this off before we try all three and give you a score when it comes to price. I'm going to go with like a straight 8.00. I don't think an $80 price point is too much to ask for, but at the end of the day, the tough part with all of these bottles coming out of Barrell is once they're gone, they're gone. So if you pick up batch 35 and then you find out you love it, and in a couple of weeks, somebody's selling it for, I don't know, $100, $125, then you might have to pay the secondary value for these. Now, I don't see these going on secondary too often, but what I'm saying is if you love this bottle, you got to get 2 or 3 of them because once they're gone, they're gone. So an 8.0 is where we're going to put this when it comes to price. But listen, while I had these scores up, let's pour all 3 of these up and do this blind and see which one I like, batch 33, batch 34, batch 35, strictly when it comes to taste here on Bourbon of the Week. So for this week's Bourbon Bomb of the Week, we're going to find out which one we like the best. This is A, which is batch 35, B, which is batch 34, and C, which is batch 33. Those all correspond with the glasses here, A, B, and C on the bottom of these glasses. We're going to mix these up. We're going to do this blind. We're going to take the bottles off the table real quick, and we're going to see which one we like the best out of batch 34, batch 35, and batch 33. I don't know why I said it like that, but let's get to it. Everybody's favorite part, let's mix these up. That's a start, but just to make sure we got these all the way mixed up, let's pull up our Whiskey Wisdom spinner here. Check out Whiskey Wisdom on Instagram. If you're not, they have awesome glasses. So now that we don't know which one's which, let's get our bottles back up here. This is batch 33. This is batch 34, which is B. And of course, the one we're drinking tonight, batch 35. And let's see which one we like the best doing this blind. Traditional sip. Cheers, y'all. So here's the thing, first sip, this is definitely spicy, but it does have a little bit less ethanol. That being said, I've drank a little bit of whiskey tonight, so maybe that's helping when it comes to the ethanol kick. Let's get to glass number 2 right here. Also a very good spice on this, but a little bit less ethanol-y when it comes to the spice, and a little bit more rye spice or rye forward when it comes to the spice on that. Let's get into glass number 3. This one right now seems to be the most different of the 3. It's definitely sweeter than the other 2, more than that spiciness that I'm picking up on these glasses over here. I love sweetness, you guys know that. Those vanillas, those caramels, those toffees and butterscotches really come out of this glass right here, and it seems to be the quietest when it comes to the ethanol kick. Now, if you don't know, this is 117.5 when it comes to proof, 114.62 as well as 116.6. This is 5 years, this is 6 years, and this is also 6 years. But again, those age statements range because 6 years is the youngest, 6 years is the youngest, and 5 years is the youngest in this. They definitely have older whiskey in it as well. Let's try this again. I'm switching things up on you completely the second time through. This right here, the sweetness shines, very easy to drink. It used to have a big ethanol kick, but now as I went through this one time, this one seems to be the quietest when it comes to the ethanol and the sweetest so far. This is messing me all up. Let's just keep drinking. The oak presence on glass too seems to be the most oaky when it comes to the finish on this, but yet not very dry when it comes to those tannins on this as well. Kind of a weird experience to get that much oak without a lot of tannins. I love that though, because I hate when it dries my mouth out. This one right over here seems to be sweet as well. So these two right now are kind of comparable. This one seems to be the outlier when it comes to that spiciness, but this one's quiet when it comes to the ethanol. This one has a little bit more ethanol. This one definitely has an oak presence on them. They actually all have a very good oak presence on them. I'm going to go back to number 3 over here. We'll go back through one more time and we'll pick our favorite. That's actually somewhere right in the middle. If these two had a baby, it seems like it's this one over here. Super spicy, super sweet, and this one's kind of giving you the best of both worlds. And I kind of feel like that might be the one that I like the best. This one, normally the sweetness is where I lean towards, but this one giving me that spice and that sweetness kind of mixing it all together very well. This is a tough call. I'm kind of up in the air between these two right now. I do love the sweetness on this, but I also love the complexity on this one. A good oak presence on all three. I'm going to say that this one's my favorite, giving me that roller coaster ride that I always talk about. This is number 2 and this is number 3, but at the end of the day, I would be happy with any one of these glasses if you handed it to me. But it is time for the big reveal. Drum roll, please. And the answer is, let's not go with the winner to start. Let's go with the loser. The loser is C. Barrell Batch 33 is going to be in 3rd place. Again, a great glass of whiskey. Super spicy, a little bit ethanol forward. But at the end of the day, doesn't seem to stand up next to these two. And I absolutely loved Batch 33 when it came to its taste. You drink this on its own, you're not going to be upset about this glass. You drink it next to these two heavy hitters, you might be. But let's go with number 2, and then we'll find out who the winner is. The 2nd place is B, which is actually going to be Barrell Batch 34. This is a very good glass of whiskey. I was torn between the two of these, but that's going to tell you something, that Batch 35, the current batch that we're drinking tonight, wins this blind. Super sweet forward on this one. If you like sweetness like I do, you're going to love this glass right here, but this just seems like the best of both worlds. You're getting sweet, you're getting spicy, you're getting a very fresh feeling when it comes to this glass over here. Sure, a little bit of an ethanol kick, but that oak rounds it out very well at the end. Batch 35 is an obvious pickup if you have an opportunity to get it. At $80, I would not be mad at this at all. You know, sometimes I do question myself when it comes to these reviews. I do have to give this a score out of 10, 2 decimal points out on 3 different categories, but sometimes it also tells me how accurate I am. This just squeaked by Barrell 34 at an 8.29, which was an 8.25 when it comes to Barrell 34, to take the lead in the current Barrell batches. I gotta tell you, it just did that in the blind, and I am very happy to tell you that this batch right here is currently my favorite, both in taste and as well as price, taste, drinkability on our current ranking sheet, because this barrel is a very good barrel when it comes to my particular palate. Now, blinds are the best way to keep yourself honest when it comes to whiskey drinking, so make sure you're doing some type of blind every once in a while. If you have bottles in your collection and you think you like one better than another, drink them blind, try them out against each other, mix them up so you don't know which one's which. Have your wife, girlfriend, boyfriend, whoever it happens to be, significant other, pour one up for you and see which one you like the best. But in the meantime, make sure you check me out on Instagram at Bourbon of the Week. Go click that follow button over there. We're pushing 10,000 followers, and I can't wait to hit that 10K. Check out our Patreon page as well as our Discord. Both those links in the description below. Please don't drink and drive. Always drink responsibly and stay healthy, stay happy. Stay drinking Barrell Bourbon. They haven't disappointed me in a long time. Cheers, y'all. Batch 35.